You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla Kallander and Andrew and Yaggie. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
It's episode 89 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla Kallander and I'm a mortgage lender.
I'm Andrew Yaggie and I'm a real estate agent. Hello, Kayla.
Hi, Andy. How's it going?
It's going really good. Good now that we're able to connect and, life settles maybe for both of us, at least for 5 minutes. So to talk real estate and mortgage.
It's wild, isn't it? Like I always go into each month, like this month's going to be slower. We're going to slow down a little bit this month. We're going to refocus. And it's like the month is gone before you know it. So tis life, right?
Are you still seeing things moving at a pretty good clip in your office and work-wise?
Yeah, we will have a record number of units in October, probably. Sometimes things will move. Sometimes things will go to different months or shift, but we've got about 21 or 22 closings in October. So that's a lot for our team. And I mean, when some lenders are doing maybe 2 to 5. So we're picking up, we have a few refinances in there and that's great. Getting some money saved for some people and then the rest are purchases. So how about your team?
Yeah, we actually, I would say, have as busy of a month as, we probably have had for in October. It's been, I feel like it's been kind of a strange year, some months where in my mind we should be busier. We haven't been and but you just kind of have to roll with it, the ebbs and flows of it.
Yeah.
And I just have to remind myself that, hey, we're obviously past the post-COVID era where rates were super low. And so things are going to be a little bit more irregular, but, we're to finish the year really strong. We won't break any records, I don't think, but we're gonna have a pretty good year. Which I look around and read a lot online, Kayla, and follow a lot of different real estate groups, as I know you do too. Mm-hmm. The influencer that you are, and I look and I see a lot of people kind of complaining about the market being slow. A lot of real estate agents. Mm-hmm. About how quiet things are and hey, what are some recommendations? I can't make ends meet doing this. I just saw a slew of probably 5 or 6 individuals just in the last week leave our realtor association. And even, my wife who's worked in the schools in the past has had to go through some training because she might sub casually at the school she was at now that, she's not working there full time. And she even said that there was an individual there who was a real estate agent who really is relying on subbing at least 4 days a week, to kind of stay afloat. So I think for, quote unquote professionals, it's been a slower year. Again, we talked about how last year was the slowest year in 30 years. And this year, the last stats I saw say that this year could be a little bit slower in terms of housing volume.
Yeah, it's funny. You just jogged a memory for me. I was talking to someone the other day who is a mortgage lender, and he was talking about how he thought about going and being a substitute teacher.
Really?
So I just remembered that when you said that. And it's funny just because, some people are doing well in the industry doesn't mean everybody is. And there's a lot of people that are struggling. And I think there's a lot of clients that are still on the fence. There's a lot of clients that are still waiting for these COVID rates. And I think too, we need to reflect on what the message has been to the consumer. I think there's been a lot of, date the rates are going to come down. And whether you're a realtor, a lender, or whoever, and you're sharing this, I still think there's people that think that rates will get to 3%. And I think that's still holding people off. And that's also creating some slower activity. But Andy, I was just talking to a mortgage lender friend yesterday, and we were talking about how clients have been waiting for rates to be in the 6s. They did not want to buy in the 7s. They're like, no, they bought. They're like, you know what? It makes sense. We're going to buy. And now that rates have come down, a lot of people, believe it or not, we could save them hundreds of dollars a month, are saying, I'm going to wait. And could they wait for lower rates? Absolutely. But we're at that point where you want it to be, and you could start saving hundreds now. You can always refinance again later. Yes, that costs a little more money, but it's interesting to me that we're seeing people that wanted this, they're not doing it. And then people are still waiting for, I hear it all the time, I'm waiting for rates to get down to where they were. And that, I think, is still a narrative in people's heads. So that might be a reason for the slowdown as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting, and that's where it's fun. Like we've actually had a fairly decent fall given the market conditions, I would say, and just kind of a nice, steady stream of motivated individuals that, hey, I'm ready to make a move. I need to make a move for this reason, or hey, I'm looking at this. My dream home came up. Hey, I want to get into some new construction, and so again, those that are motivated, are really having a pretty nice time. And honestly, I love the market like this, Kayla. I don't miss the years of, hey, we need to make an offer in 5 minutes or we're not going to get it. It's like, no, hey, let's kind of take a leisurely stroll through the process and let's kind of work through it. It's a lot more comfortable.
It is. And I will tell you, it was so difficult working in those years because we talk about how it's so important to sit down with a lender. It's so important to talk to your realtor. It's important that, this is the biggest purchase you probably will ever make. And no one likes to move, but it felt so chaotic and manic and people were rushing. And I would not want to live through that again because people were buying houses. And I still feel like when I look back, I still think some people were buying and have buyer's remorse today because they were so rushed, so like, we got to get this and the rate. I mean, it's a different world, but there's a lot of positives in this market too.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, we'll talk more about that, Kayla, and other things. Maybe we'll talk about the government shutdown a little bit, and maybe even we've talked a little bit about those. Some individuals that don't want to buy or are waiting, but maybe renting could be a good solution. But before we get into that, what is going on in Kayla's life?
All the things. Well, I celebrated just with family, just life. Last weekend, I had family in town. It's just so great to get together. We always talk about, reminisce. You know what it's like when you get with family. So we hosted at my mom's place and my lake home. So I was able to spend time with family last weekend. And then just getting into October, I used to not be a fall girl, but I'm almost embracing it because typically it means just a little bit slower pace. But me, I typically don't slow down. But the dogs are loving this weather. They're outside more. They're enjoying it. They're not, overheated. It's bison football. There's tons of people back in Fargo. College is, back on. And it's just fun to see kind of the energy in Fargo again. And we're back in town on the weekends now. So it's like, this is what Fargo's like. So, and yeah, we're finishing up the lake home and life is good. So can't complain. And if I did, no one would listen. My dad always said as a joke.
Yeah, I think those are wise words.
Yeah. What about you? What's going on in your world, in your life? How are the kiddos?
Oh man, they're doing good. Obviously, back to school is a busy time, and we can't even say it's back to school. It's almost like MEA break. But the girls are doing good. They're just kind of full force into activities. We're already done with soccer. We were the girls both are doing figure skating this year. They were out skating together and really having a great time. Violet, our younger one, she did hockey last year, and then she just is not great when it comes to like putting all the gear on. Like some days it's a struggle, enough of a struggle to get dressed in the morning, let alone putting all of those pads and everything on. So so she's doing figure skating and really kind of liking that. Normally about this time, Kayla, I'm sitting out in the tractor and, we're out lifting sugar beets, but the weather has been just so incredibly warm. It's been just super challenging, but we've been out a little bit doing kind of some pre-lift and hoping next week we can go full force with harvest, although a lot of the farmers are getting a lot of other crops off. I think most people around here are done with their soybeans, going full steam ahead on corn. So some of those things going on, and I don't know, just trying to enjoy some time together on the weekends, a lot of community events, attending some benefits and some other things. And just there's no shortage of things to do.
No, and I know this time of year, it's really big. I don't know if in real estate, in actual your world, but in mortgage world, there's tons of conferences. This is like gala season. I'm sure you'll get to some galas and benefits and support. And I kind of like this time of year too, because it just brings people together.
Yeah, For sure. And I think I saw that, Kayla. We talked about it probably a couple episodes ago, but you're going to be speaking kind of at the
Yep.
Mortgage Banker Association event, and
Yeah.
I see they've more formally got you in here from Post to Profit. So you're
Yeah.
telling me by just posting on social media, I can make a profit, or it can benefit my business.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, the Mortgage Bankers Association is, I mean, the most well-known group in our world, and they have events throughout the year, and this is one of their big ones. So I'll be speaking on the hub stage at Fontainebleau in October with Megan, Matt, and Brian, who are industry thought leaders, and we're going to be talking about the compliance of it all. There's a lot of companies that are nervous to let their loan officers post on social media, and so Megan's really going to come in with talking about what's compliant. I'm going to be talking about my experience as a loan officer, like what I've witnessed. And, just this week, actually Saturday, I had a realtor call me and she said, "Hey, I'm sending you a client. They're looking at a home, blah, blah, blah." And I said your name and they said, "Oh, I follow her on Instagram. I know exactly who she is." So for me, I'm focusing on, it's not just like I'm getting like random cold leads from TikTok and Instagram. It's literally just another way to get in front of people and just sharing my experience. We're going to talk about AI, using AI for your social media. A lot of people don't even know where to start, and it is so powerful. And so it'll be a good panel for sure. I think it'll be really well attended.
I think that's awesome. I think good for you that
Yeah.
you are out on the stage. Nobody ever calls me to come and present anywhere, which I don't care, but I'm glad that you're running with it. And I know, one of your things that you love to do is, kind of sharing and helping others grow. And I believe in that too. I even look at, the type of video that I do in real estate and where we market properties, and I would gladly share that. And I've thought about putting together a course before just to share it even with other agents locally. And I don't worry about
Yeah.
having a competitive advantage. Like, I would rather raise the boat for everybody, just recognizing that our mutual industries are going to get more challenging, especially with more AI and stuff. The question is, how, I mean, obviously, like, especially to go look at homes, like, important to have an agent, and there are a lot of pieces, when you're getting a loan, working with an actual lender is going to be important. But there's a lot of talk about our jobs becoming obsolete, and so I would rather raise the boat for everybody, and teach them valuable skills that keep them
Yeah.
relevant, and keep our entire industry relevant, recognizing also that most
Well,
people are not
and I
going to
think
go
there's
on.
a lot to be said about that too. And it's,
Go ahead. I think we might have a little delay or something. I think at the end of the day, Kayla, I think the challenge is out there is that, most individuals, whether they're looking at you and everything that you do, or they're looking at, what I do, I mean, most people realistically are not going to do the hard work that it takes. So, it's really not much of a threat or a competition issue.
well, I think a lot of people think sharing is, there's no room for everyone to win. There is room, and someone succeeding and winning is not taking away from your own. And I think you just have to go into that mindset. And truly, 90% of the people that you share things with are not going to probably implement it. To be honest with you, you go to a conference, you hear a million things. People maybe will do one thing, maybe nothing at all. And so I think that, though, by lifting others, I mean, it's just raising the bar for our industry.
When you go to a conference, and you take all of these pages of notes from all of these different main sessions, breakouts, etc., and I guess we could liken it, maybe for the average person listening. Let's say I don't go to events regularly. Let's say, hey, I'm just a little bit savvy and I want to make a change financially or whatever. So I've gone and I've talked to an expert, but I'm just really overwhelmed. I'm maybe not apt to make any changes. But how often do you find yourself, when you've gone and you've learned all of these great things, whether it's locally from an expert or on a big stage somewhere, how often are you actually implementing something?
Cindy Ertman is a thought leader in our industry as well. And she always says, just take 3 cars out of the garage. You're going to have a million cars in the garage when you leave this conference. So I am normally trying to just take 3 things away, because otherwise it's just so overwhelming. there's too much, your brain goes crazy, and then you do nothing. It's paralysis by analysis. So I take my plot recorder, I take extensive notes on my Remarkable, and I go away and I say, these are 3 things I need to do. And I put my blinders on. Otherwise, Andy, I've gone to conferences, I've listened in on sales training. And if you don't have your blinders on, it's just too overwhelming. You're given all these tips and it's too much. So I'm always taking something away. And also what I take away from conferences is the connections. So like I have a girlfriend that I got to know on a conference, and we share tips and tricks about, this week was refinances. I met with a guy last week. He's a lender in Michigan, and we just talk about strategies and things that we can do. And what did you learn? So there's also that connection piece, the networking that goes so far that you might not even realize.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've tried to do that even in my daily life, Kayla. Like before I go to bed, I usually have a plan in place for what I'm going to do the next day. So I make sure that I spend my time wisely, because time is, our largest asset. And I try to start the day focus on, what are 3 things that I can do today that would make it a great day if I got it done? Because otherwise it's so easy, to live in the gap and not in the gain. When I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, today didn't go well because, hey, I had some rental property projects I was working on. I didn't quite get that done. I was working on this flip project. I didn't get to that. And it's just so easy to focus on what isn't going right.
Right.
That, hey, if you break it down, make it simple. Like if I get these 3 things done, it's going to be a win. And then even to go a step further, like periodically checking in with yourself, Kayla, and this is great individual in daily life, is what's going right in my life. Like it's easy to look at the negatives and look at what's going on in our country, look at what's going on in the world, and think that, boy, everything's going to hell. Nothing is going right. I'm not where I should be. I was looking at my vision board the other day, which hangs above my desk at home, Kayla, and I was looking at it. It's like, boy, like I have not, like we're getting to the end of the year, and there are a lot of these things that I haven't even touched.
Yeah.
It's not a loss. It's just, hey, I've gone a different direction in some different areas, and I just didn't update it. But so periodically making a list of what's going right in life and actually looking and showing gratitude is a really important practice.
It's so ironic you say that. I was on the phone with a girlfriend yesterday, and we were talking about how she's trying to hit this goal to go on a trip at her company. And I said, but girl, look how far you've come this year. Like, who would have thought you would have done this much business? And you're right. We get caught in that gap in the gain. And well, I didn't hit this though. And it's so easy. And I don't know why we do that. I don't know if everybody does that, but it's probably a high achiever mentality. But, also like, when is enough enough? You might have goals, but, just because someone else is doing something, Andy, just because there's another realtor that has a team and they're crushing it and doing millions of dollars, there's stress that comes with that. There's a responsibility. And so I think we also have to reflect that just because someone else has a goal doesn't mean it should be for us either. And in reverse, just because we have certain goals doesn't mean we should expect that from other people as well.
I like it. And it's hard. I need to remind myself of that sometimes. And my wife actually reminds me of that, because I'm very hard charging, driven, direct, and I'm going to give you feedback. And some people who don't know me, like, regard it as like, it's like, oh boy, he's mad at me, or this isn't going well, or whatever. It's like, I'm never going to yell at you. I'm generally never going to get upset with you, but I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. And at the end of the day, you're going to know how we stand. And that is not endearing to a lot of people. But I guess I am me, you are you, and we just have to go out and find our people and just keep, working. I'm trying to have less of an edge and be less direct. It's challenging sometimes, because I always say, what are the majority of your problems? The majority of your problems are people problems. And so when I look, whether it's an issue with a client, or it's an issue with a vendor or a contractor or whatever it is, it's like, man, like we obviously need to figure it out, but the people piece is very challenging.
Yeah, they're the best part of the job and the worst part, right? Like, and there's emotions, and you're the company you keep. Who are you around in the office? Who are you working with day to day? And also the company you keep as well is, does your spouse support you? Do your friends support you? You know what I mean? Are you being told those dreams are too big? Can't you just settle down? Or are you around people that are saying that's a great goal? How do we get you there? I think people in every scenario, you're right. It's the best part and the worst part.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Kayla, how can I be a better resource for you and help you achieve more of what you want?
Oh man, you're really putting me on the spot here. Gosh,
Because
you know, and
you've already done that for me today, and so I have to tell you today, I'm grateful for you that you referred an individual, someone who you work with in the area. They were looking for a good agent in the area, and they referred their family to me because of you. So I'm grateful for you
yay,
for doing
I
that
love
today.
it. Well, I think that you continuing to do the podcast with me and continuing to hold me accountable, Andy, that's what you can do for me.
I will. I are you when you go in and do the event at the Mortgage Bankers Association, are you guys recording? Like, is there going to be a recording of it? Do you get a recording of it?
I'm sure there will be. There's also a lot of people I know that'll be there, so they'll probably be recording pieces of it as well. So we'll get some clips for sure.
I'd be curious to see some of it. Maybe all of it won't be terribly interesting just because it talks probably more about compliance on the lending side, which isn't my wheelhouse, but I'm sure there will be some good nuggets there. And I'm a fan too, so I'm just always curious as
Yeah.
far as what you're up to.
Yeah, I think there'll be some recordings, and I think it'll be a really like vibrant group because it's all people like if once you see their personalities, we're all spitfires.
Mhm.
And when you're at the MBA, it's probably one of the ones that's going to be most attended because people know AI and social media is not going away. So
Mhm.
how do we implement that? What can we do? So I'll see what I can do to get some recording.
I like it for sure. Kayla, let's talk a little bit about mortgage and real estate. Um, the government shutdown. How's the government shutdown affecting housing? And I actually have a story. I had a closing on this past Friday, and it was a USDA rural redevelopment loan. USDA,
Really?
part of the government. Kayla, we weren't supposed to close for up to another week and a half, and by the grace of God, we ended up pushing it up to better meet everybody's schedule. And had we not,
Mm,
know that we would get closed with the government
yeah.
shutdown, with the USDA having to give final approval for that loan.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we're seeing right now is USDA is pretty much on pause. And I had a couple that we were going to go USDA. We ended up not being able to. We flipped them conventional. And had we not flipped conventional, we would have been forced to flip conventional, or they would not have been able to close at all. So USDA is essentially on pause, and so is flood insurance, unless it's private flood insurance. So I had a client make an offer last week. We found out flood cert came up. They're in a flood zone, so they cannot go and purchase the traditional national flood insurance. So they're having to purchase private. So
Sure.
there's some things that are on hold or paused, and a lot of other scenarios like conventional FHA, VA, they're not necessarily stopped or paused, but we will see some slowdowns because there's some things that we request, like IRS transcripts, for example, that will take a little bit longer to obtain. But ultimately, people should be prepared for a little bit slower turn times. And if you're in USDA, it's important that if you're shopping right now with a USDA pre-qualification letter, that if you're writing an offer, you best be prepared that you might need to flip to conventional or FHA. So
Mhm.
just some things to be aware of. But yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt. But Andy, the fact that you got that loan closed, thank goodness, because I don't know where you'd be.
I know, first time home buyers moving out of a rental property, so it could have been a little bit tricky, but it worked out.
Yeah,
So, any
yeah,
insight?
good.
I don't know if anyone has a firm grasp, but when are we going to be out of this government shutdown, Kayla? And what's
Oh
it
my
going to look
gosh.
like on the other side?
I really don't know. I listen to podcasts and I connect with other thought leaders, and I really don't know. I have no like. There's not a date that I could say. I think by this date, a couple weeks maybe, but I guess we don't know. Do you have any pulse on that?
No idea, other than just reading the news headlines and everybody playing the blame game.
Blame
And
game.
just I don't have a lot of love or desire for even watching or reading right now. It just seems like it's
Yeah, it's a lot.
a dumpster fire out there.
Yep, it really is. But ultimately, we can get things done. Just we need to prepare. Realtors need to be aware of what loans your clients are pre-qualified for, and just maybe don't push 2 to 3 week closings. Maybe have more flexibility because things will take longer.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Kayla, I've got a question. How
Yeah.
often do you have someone that comes to you and they're looking to buy and you give them the advice, you know what, it may just be better for you to rent?
More than you would think. I mean, we don't really talk about that because on our socials and on here, we're talking about stories of home buyers. And, like yesterday on my Instagram story, I shared that story how the client was told, no, you need to put 20% down, but now we're moving forward, right? We're talking about the stories of success. However, I think it's important to know that there's a lot of people that are told you should rent. And we don't often talk probably enough about that. But it doesn't have to be you need to rent forever. It's, hey, for the next 6 months, let's get your credit up. Let's get some money saved. Because there's nothing worse than I see someone buying a house, Andy, and after all is said and done, they're going to have $300 in their bank account. Like that is scary to me. And you don't, we're giving the money, right? Like we don't want them to default. And if they do, I mean, how terrible. So I would say one out of every maybe 25, I'm like, you should be renting.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? Are you seeing that often?
The individuals that come to us, every once in a while, though it's pretty rare, but it's obviously it's multifaceted, the decision, when
Mm-hmm.
someone's making the decision to rent versus own. And even I had a individual, a past client of mine, call the other day, and I had sold a lake property for them, moved them into something more retirement, single level. Unfortunately, her husband passed unexpectedly, and now she's been there for a couple of years, but had just actually reached out and said, hey, I'm really thinking about selling, actually going to a different community to be closer to more family. And honestly, I just want to rent. I don't want the headache of ownership. I don't want to have to worry about,
Yeah.
someone having to sell it down the road for me. And so it's like, oh, that isn't the norm that we hear all of the time, but it's a very interesting, in different perspective. Not unlike kind of this article that I came upon the other day that really made me think about this, where economists talk about why buying a home isn't always better. And so, the biggest takeaways from this article is, and probably the top one, Kayla, is that buying a house is out of reach for most Americans. Again, the article talks about home ownership was unaffordable for nearly 75% of US households. And a lot of people think in terms of, well, if you're renting, you're just throwing that money away. You get no equity. You're just, putting money in your landlord's pocket. And there's some truth to that, but renting doesn't necessarily mean, falling behind financially.
Right.
Owning oftentimes can exceed the expense of long-term renting. When you're looking at transaction costs, when you're looking at all of a sudden you're moving into this older home and you have all of these big ticket items, that need to get done. I was visiting with some older sellers the other day who just don't have the means, to take care of all of the deferred maintenance on their home, and they need a roof, they need siding, they need windows, among other things. Renting would have been, a better option. And of course, a lot of people, Kayla, fall back on, the tax benefits, writing off, that mortgage interest, namely, among other things. And so they're maybe, more willing to spend money buying a home. But that might not always equal a better financial outcome for them either.
No, and I think a lot of people need to realize too that, you have an inspection that's done and that tells you, what the quality and the structure and what the bones and, what everything, how everything's operating in a home. But you can't necessarily predict if you're going to get hail or if a tree is going to fall or, something goes out. And so I always tell people, like, just because, your inspection came back clean, it doesn't mean that things don't happen in life, right? It's like with your vehicle, right? And so I always share with people, here's how much based on this purchase, what I would have in savings. Because what happens when something happens to your house and you have $300 in your account? That's more terrifying, and a lot of clients, they have to realize that, if something breaks in your house, you are responsible now. The landlord is not. So, we've had some conversations with clients like that in the past, like, hey, just remember, like, now it's your responsibility. And, when I talk to people, like single people buying a house, they're like, yeah, my biggest fear, like single women, like, I'm glad that my dad is handy because I know that I'm going to be responsible. And I think just having those real conversations with people, I mean, it just sheds a light on, hey, this is a big responsibility. It's not just a monthly payment, but it's unexpected, things that can happen.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting journey, and I think we've talked about it on past episodes where, some individuals have reasoned that, down the road, the majority of individuals are going to rent not only their homes, maybe their vehicles and everything else. And you just look like things are just so out of whack cost wise, just in so many different areas and sectors of life, it is becoming increasingly more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think too, people are making it okay. And I'm not saying this isn't okay, but they're prioritizing a $1,200 a month truck payment. They're prioritizing the new iPhone. And not that there's anything wrong with that. That's people's priorities. But, if we're really looking at what you want in life, ultimately, some people want to rent, and that's okay. And we have to understand as industry professionals that, we can give advice and share advice, but it's ultimately what the client's priorities are.
I saw this the other day and I screenshotted it really quick. Here's a 6% mortgage, but not a $1,200 truck payment. Make it make sense. Make it make sense for us, Kayla. Priority.
That is so funny that you have that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're hauling a lot of stuff, I don't know, like my husband has a truck, so we like to haul. I mean, that would make sense to have it. But I mean, when you're telling someone, I want to afford a $1,500 house payment and you have a $1,200 truck payment, I mean, there's a little misalignment there, but to each their own.
But it's pretty common today, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's very common, but people are afraid of these rates, but yet I'm seeing, as I've told our audience before, 15 to 24% interest on car loans and at 50,000. And so, moving some things around financially can really help your financial, I guess you could say, fingerprint when it comes to buying a home, because if you pay off some debt, people don't realize paying off some debt can help your mortgage rate actually, because your debt to income is lower. So your mortgage insurance is lower. So your payment is lower. And there's so many things that go into it. So if you're willing to have conversations with a lender to strategize, there's ways we can get your payment there, but it might take some sacrifice.
Speaking of conversations, I saw that just as I was looking at that, as I screenshotted this, I screenshotted this post from a lender online. And this lender says, I'll never understand how this still happens. People making major life decisions, entering contracts, sometimes stacked with multiple offers, all based on a guess, no bank statements, no W-2s, no pay stubs, nothing verified. And so this individual said, hey, I've never had a borrower or buyer submit financials prior to an accepted offer. I imagine blank will start gathering bank statements, W-2s, pay stubs, and tax returns after I'm able to send them the PA.
What?
Can you believe that?
So, okay, let me understand this. Is this a realtor that posted this?
This is a lender that posted this. This is a text from a real estate agent to this lender. Basically saying, hey, I've never had anyone submit financials prior to an accepted offer.
Oh, okay. That lender needs to fire that realtor. Like, oh, I mean, is that legit?
But yeah, it is. This is a lender who's not in our immediate area, but because he's affiliated with a brokerage in the area, they refer a lot of people to, because he's kind of also part owner or affiliated with the brokerage. And he does a really great job. I will say, like when buyers have been brought by these other agents and he's representing, does a fantastic job. And just some of the stuff that he posts and that you see, it's like, this is absolutely nuts. And it goes hand in hand with us sounding like a broken record, Kayla, when we're talking about it matters who you work with. Like there are agents like this that are running around, and even lenders that say, "Hey, yeah, I'll give you a pre-approval letter," or "Yeah, hey, we'll write an offer, and hey, we'll go get a Rocket pre-approval or Zillow Mortgage pre-approval, and let's just roll with it. We'll figure the rest out later." I wonder how many times that backfires when, hey, no, you can't get financing.
Andy, my team does such a thorough job up front. And even when we are incredibly thorough, things pop up. Something didn't show on credit. They didn't disclose a loan that they had that doesn't report. They essentially quit their job. Something happens where things shift that we can't see. Maybe they put in their app that they're doing X amount, and then they didn't tell us that they're no longer going to be earning overtime. So now we can't count it. So I share that because even when we are so incredibly thorough up front, there's surprises that happen. And so if you're not even like, how do you even know what program they're qualified for? How do you know, like, rates can shift by a whole % depending on programs. So to me, that is just incredibly irresponsible. And the client then, I mean, think about it. A client's being told by a realtor, you don't need to do that. They're being told one thing and a lender saying, do this to protect them. They're probably going to listen to the realtor and then say, oh, just go over here. And then this lender that does a great job that protects people loses a client. And then that client ends up having a completely terrible experience, paying up the wazoo in fees and maybe not closing on time. And I think we put too much focus on that front end. Let's just get the offer accepted. I mean, that is when like a lot of the work should be done. But what do? I mean, live and learn.
Well, and I think we've shared this in the past, but house hunting without a pre-approval is like going to the airport without a ticket. You're not going anywhere unless you're flying with this other agent who will just go show properties and write offers. I would never get into a situation like this, Kayla, because number one, I value my time. I value the client's time as well. And I also value, like, if we're going into someone's home and we're going to go offer on their property, I value and respect them as well. And if I don't even know what this individual qualifies for, if anything, like how embarrassing to go write an offer on a home and then, do the pre-approval later. And not only can this individual not get a loan, but even if they could, they really should be shopping at half of the price point they just offered on.
Right.
That's you're not being a professional. You're an order taker.
I think order taker is exactly what you just hit on, Andy. Order taker is, hey, I want to do this. And so I can only spend 400,000. But if you're talking to the right people, we could get you up to 500,000 if you do this, if you change this. What if you take this person off? Let's not put your husband on the loan. Let's pay upfront mortgage insurance instead of monthly. Like there's so many things that people, I really don't think you understand unless you're, in the business and fully in it, that goes into the mortgage piece. And it's just doing everyone a disservice. So, I mean, that's where I really appreciate the people that say, hey, I'm interested in buying a home soon. How do I move forward? What are my next steps? They take time to talk to me. They give me time to review their scenario, just like you let a doctor review your x-rays and come up with a treatment plan. And then meet with me again. Those are the people that succeed versus, hey, I found a house I want to buy. Can you get me pre-qualified quickly? Not that we can't do that. The client's just missing out on all the options because we're rushing. It's like, okay, we're spitting this out. We didn't even talk. Hopefully they're okay with that payment because they didn't take the time to talk about it. And hopefully they are okay with those fees because, it's a condo or there's an HOA or a high specials. That is where things go off the rails, to be honest. So I know I sound like a broken record, but
you can't make this stuff up, and it's real examples. So at the end of the day, partner with somebody not only that you jive with, but also that's going to take the time and be diligent and make sure that you're going to win. That's what it comes down to.
And it's good for everybody. And then when you get to closing or you get to the loan and it's all done after 2 weeks and you want to move up the closing date and everything's good. Isn't that a lot more digestible and giving you peace than waiting till the last minute, hoping like, gosh, am I going to move into this house tomorrow? I don't even know, because those are real life scenarios too.
For sure. Well, Kayla, I feel like this has been a jam-packed episode with a lot of great content and information. So, hey, enjoy connecting as always. And
always a pleasure.
Let's do it again next week.
Let's do it again sometime.
All right. Have a great day, Kayla. We'll see you.
I will. You too. Bye.
Bye.